They've got the whole goal in their hands. 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 Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf and welcome back to Let's Talk Chelsea for the Goalkeeper edition of Transfer Tiers. And apologies that this is so late. I said about 2 weeks ago now that I'd be doing this video, and here we are, but better late than never. I hope you all enjoyed that little musical performance in the opening there. Basically, if you have not been around my channel for very long, if this is the first video you're even watching, for example, a couple of weeks ago I did a video discussing certain areas of our starting 11 where I do believe we need improvement. If you have not seen that video already, do go and watch it, and then also go and watch the previous episode of Transfer Tiers where I discussed the centre-back options that we could look at. But for this one, we are looking at the goalkeepers. I do believe we need to upgrade on Robert Sanchez. I do not believe he is good enough to be a sustainable number one in the Chelsea goal, because he just makes too many mistakes. Yes, he's only made a certain amount of mistakes that have led to goals, 4, I believe is the tally we're up to now, but it's not just the mistakes that have led to goals, it's the mistakes that have led to shots on goal, that have led to counters, that have just causing us mistakes, that put us under pressure, and we can't really do that. Like, we need to avoid that. Sanchez puts us under so much pressure. I genuinely believe he stresses out the backline so much, and we saw that mainly last season. I don't think the backline ever looked comfortable with them behind him, and we saw it quite clearly when Georgi Petrovic came into the team, that they looked so much more comfortable with him behind him, and that told me quite a lot. So I don't believe Sanchez is the long-term solution to this. So that leaves us with the question, who is a good option for us to bring in between the sticks? Well, if we jump over to the tier list, if you've seen the centre-back video, it is basically the same thing as before. The 5 categories from top to bottom. The ideal category, this is for obviously the targets I do believe would be perfect solutions and would slot straight into the team as a world-class number one. We have the solid options who I think would be very, very good, but wouldn't be my first options or my first targets. But I wouldn't be upset if we did go for them. We have the risky category, which is players that I think could be very, very good, but have a level of, well, risk to them and could end up going wrong if we did look at that as an option. We have the unrealistic category, speaks for itself, goalkeepers that I think would probably be pretty good, but are likely unattainable. And then we have the stay away category, which is obviously the ones that I don't think we should be going anywhere near. So, with that being said, let's get into it, and we're going to start once again, like we did with the centre-back video, we're discussing if we have any options in-house to fix our goalkeeping problem. And obviously, there's been a big point of contention all season about who should be Chelsea's number one between Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. In my opinion, I'd be more willing to trust Jorgensen. I would. Because I think he is, one, massively better with his feet. And with the way Maresca wants to play, that is something we really need. Now, Jorgensen has not had the most healthy competition, shall we say, because every game he's played has been against weak opposition. Like, he's only played 2 Premier League games this season against 2 of the bottom 3 in Southampton and Ipswich. One of those games he was okay, the second game he was shaky. And Jorgensen, he's not really had the best competition this season. He has had some good performances. The Heidenheim game in particular, where he made 12 saves, I believe, in that game, which was absolutely unbelievable. He was absolutely our man of the match and won us that game very clearly. And he was very good in that game. And he has had some good moments this season, Philip Jorgensen. But I do have a problem, and it is something we saw quite recently in the Morecambe game, which is that he does have a problem with claiming crosses, which is something that Robert Sanchez does not really have a problem with. Because of how big he is, how big his wingspan is, he is quite comfortably 9 times out of 10 able to claim a cross. Obviously not always the case, as we saw versus Wolves, that went wrong, but usually he is able to get it. Jorgensen's not as comfortable doing that. He's not as comfortable dominating his box really, like someone like a David Raya, like an Alisson, an Edison, someone like that. He's not as comfortable really doing that. He is a very good shot stopper, and he's 100% better with his feet than Sanchez, but I do think he may not be the most suited option, shall we say. However, because we do already own him, I'm going to put him in the solid category. Simply because if Sanchez keeps screwing up, we do have an available option who can step in to take his place. And maybe with the superior defence in front of him that Sanchez has had all season, compared to the one Jorgensen has had in the Conference League, maybe he will look better by comparison. Maybe. I don't know. But until we find out, we're never going to know. The next name on this list is a former Chelsea #1 goalkeeper, and it is the #1 we had in net for the second half of last season, and that is Georgi Petrovic. Georgi Petrovic is still on Chelsea's books. We still own him. He is currently on loan at our sister club, Strasbourg. And by all accounts, he is doing really, really well there. He couldn't get into the team until Rob Sanchez got injured in the Everton game, and then he came into the team and became Pochettino's #1 goalkeeper. And he did really, really well in that time. He did have a few errors, as you would imagine, in the season that we had last year. But I do think there were positives there. He did look like a competent shot stopper, and I don't think he was as horrific with his feet as people really made him out to be. I am really happy for how he's been used at Strasbourg and how Liam Rosenior has developed him while he's been there, because by all accounts, he's now become a ball-playing goalkeeper, because he now has, I believe, like the most passes of any goalkeeper in Europe's top 5 leagues, which is absolutely unreal. So I really do think Petrovic is a good option, which is why he's going into the solid category. I'm not going to put him at ideal, because while his ball-playing ability may have improved, I don't entirely know what the level of it is yet. So until we see him back in the Premier League, I won't be able to judge him royally, because the French league isn't the best league in the world. So until we see that, I can't really judge him, but we already own him, and by all accounts, he's been improving at Strasbourg, so I'd give him the shot. The final goalkeeper on our books that I want to talk about is technically someone that isn't technically on our books yet, and that is 19-year-old Belgian keeper Mike Penders. Now, Mike Penders is someone that we plan to sign. Well, we have signed him basically, and he is still playing for Genk in Belgium, and he will join us next summer. And by all accounts, the kid's supposed to be a really good prospect goalkeeper. Although I am not having anybody tell me anything other than we looked at the fact he was 6'7" and Belgian. Because you know exactly who that reminds you of. Thibaut Courtois. And I really, really hope he is as good as Thibaut Courtois. Because by all accounts, he has been good this season. He started in the Genk goal for the beginning of the season. He did go back to the under-23s for quite a while and has recently come back into the starting spot at Genk. I don't entirely know the reasons why, haven't been able to find out. But by all accounts, he is a solid keeper. He seems decent with his feet. He's obviously going to be very good at claiming crosses, being 6'7" and with a big wingspan. And he will be naturally very good at reaching those high areas because of how big he is. The obvious problem is, can he save down to his sides? That was a big problem for Thibaut Courtois while he was with us. And I think he did improve upon it, mainly when he did go to Madrid. But I think he was a big problem from when he was with us. So if Penders can sort that out, and he is good with his feet, he will be an absolute goalkeeping revelation. However, I'm going to put him in risky. Not just for the reasons that I've already mentioned, but for the fact that he's 19 years old. And 19 years old for a goalkeeper is unbelievably young. Having someone that experienced in the goal, combined with the fact that our backline isn't the most experienced to begin with, might be a recipe for disaster. I think he is a really high potential player and could be a world-class goalkeeper in the future. But until we see what his strengths and weaknesses truly are, I can't really judge how good he is going to be. And with his age, I think it would be a bit reckless for us to throw him in the deep end and make him the Chelsea #1 on the back of that. From goalkeepers that we currently own or are going to own to a goalkeeper that we used to own, and I'm talking about Nice #1 Marcin Bulka. Marcin Bulka was a Chelsea Academy goalkeeper that we let go. He went to PSG, didn't really turn out that brilliantly for him there, and then he went to Nice and he became their #1. And by all accounts, he's done really well for himself at Nice. Apparently, this is a story my dad tells me, which is that he was in nets for, I believe, a pre-season game playing Lazio. Apparently we were there, we saw him play, and apparently he was really, really good. I don't remember the event personally, so unfortunately I can't speak to it. But by all accounts, he did look really, really good. But then we ended up selling him in favour of bringing in Kepa. And maybe that was a mistake. Maybe we could consider bringing him back. And it wouldn't be the worst option. I don't hate the idea of Marcin Bulka. I think he is a solid keeper. He's about 6'5". He is a big guy. By all accounts, he is quite good with his feet. And he is a decent shot stopper. So maybe it wouldn't be the worst idea. There is obviously the concern, would he want to come back? We kind of ditched him in the first place, so would he be willing to come back? I don't know. Obviously, the big adaptation from the French League to the Premier League is quite big. So would he be able to handle that? And obviously, do his abilities both as a shot stopper and on the ball translate to what Maresca wants him to do? These are very possible things that could go wrong for him. So I'm putting him in the risky category. Yeah, I am putting him in the risky category. It could be a very good idea to bring him back. He does know Chelsea. He obviously came up through our ranks as goalkeeper. And he has proven himself quite a bit in French League playing for Nice. Obviously, I just do question whether he can adapt that to being a Premier League one. So if we do not have the solution in-house, or it does not lie with the former player, what about Maresca's former number one at Leicester, Mads Hermansen? Now, I honestly think Mads Hermansen would be a solid choice, because he clearly understands Maresca's system. He is very good with his feet. He has proven this season he is very good as a shot stopper as well. He's made some absolutely crucial saves for Leicester this season, and I think he has been a large part of the reason that they have been able to sustain playing outside of the relegation for as long as they have. Now, since he's gotten injured, they have gone off an absolute cliff, and I think that has done them absolutely no favours. But I think Hermansen would be a pretty safe choice, because, as I said, he knows Maresca's system, and he knows the pressures of the Premier League. And playing behind a substantially better backline than that Leicester one, where he has to deal with Wout Faes, who is the most inconsistent defender I've ever seen, and Yannick Vestergaard, who is not very quick. Put him in behind our backline, which will affect him a lot more. He will probably do a lot better. So I think it is a solid option. The obvious question is, would it be easy to get him out of Leicester? We already took their manager, we took their best player. Would we realistically be able to return and take their goalkeeper as well? That might not go over too well. Would that be possible? I don't know. The path from Leicester to Chelsea is a very trodden one. There is no club in the past 20 years that Chelsea has spent more money at than Leicester, on about 5 players as well. So another one coming down the road would not surprise me in the slightest. I don't know how that would particularly go down. So if not Maresca's old number one, how about the world's number one, as Aston Villa fans like to sing, Emiliano Martinez. Emi Martinez, he is a brilliant goalkeeper, arguably one of the best in the world. However, this season seems like it's been a season from hell for him, because he has made so many unbelievably bad mistakes, conceded more goals than he ever should have done, and he just seems to be having so many problems. Like, he's made some good saves this season, don't get me wrong, like the one he made versus Nottingham Forest was absolutely brilliant. He's had no shortage of mistakes this season, ones that have led to goals and nearly led to goals. I mean, literally in the game that we played against them, the Villa fans were singing Emi Martinez, the world's number one, and then he just passed the ball straight to Nicholas Jackson. Like, it was hilarious. Like, they're calling him the best in the world, and he does the dumbest thing possible. It's ridiculous how that happens. Martinez is a very good goalkeeper, 6'5", very good shot stopper, and good with his feet. But the problem is, would we be able to get? And I think the answer is no. So Emi Martinez goes into the unrealistic. Would he be a good option? Yes. I think he is a step above Sanchez in both using his feet and as a shot stopper. But there are 2 problems. One, he has massive moments of errors in him that he would really need to sort out, because we're dealing with that right now. We don't need that again. So he would need to sort that out. And the other problem is he does seem like he's a bit of a dick. So I don't know whether Maresca would particularly want to deal with him. So I think that could be a problem. He would be an okay option. I just think it's unrealistic. From the world's number one to England's number one, we're talking Everton number one, Jordan Pickford. And I don't hate the idea of Pickford. I think it would be a solid choice. I'm not going to put it in ideal. because I think there are much better options than Pickford, much higher potential and much better quality than Pickford, but it wouldn't be the worst deal in the world to do. Everton are often battling with FFP, so it wouldn't be they wouldn't price him out of a move or anything, I doubt. And he has been at Everton for quite a while. He's been a big reason they've managed to avoid relegation for so long, and he has done them world of favours with that. And he's been England #1 for what, about 8 years now, something like that. He's done well in that time, and I think maybe playing in front of a better backline would be alright. The obvious benefit to Pickford is he is very vocal, he is a leader, he will absolutely bollock his defenders if they're screwing up. He'll freaking bollock them if they're doing well, for that matter. He is unbelievably vocal, like he reads the right act like at least twice a game. He is very good as a shot stopper. He does have a couple moments where he's a bit stupid with it, and he isn't tallest, he doesn't have the longest arms, so reaching high places can be difficult for him. And he is quite decent with his feet as well. He's not the best with his feet, I have to be honest, but he is solid, and he does have a few mistakes in him, but I don't think that's largely from distribution, more from actual on the ball work. That can get him in trouble, but maybe with a better defense he won't necessarily need to do that. So I don't hate the idea of Pickford. Wouldn't be my first choice by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think it's the worst option. Now, moving into someone who I am personally a massive fan of, goalkeeper, the Portugal #1, Diogo Costa. And for me, Diogo Costa would be a perfect solution to our goalkeeping situation. He goes into the ideal category without a doubt. Diogo Costa, for me, is one of the best young goalkeepers in the world. Like, you forget, he has been out around for a couple of years now, and he's only about 24, 25 years old. He's already the Portugal #1. He made brilliant saves for Portugal in the Euros. The first goalkeeper to stop 3 penalties in a penalty shootout in the Euros, stopping all 3 of Slovenia's penalties. And I think he has done really, really well to get to the level he is so quickly. He is the Porto captain now as well. That's important to measure. And for someone so young, they must have massive faith in his leadership capabilities to make him captain. So I think that is a big part of something that we could really look at, benefit from having a bit more leadership at the back, considering we don't have the most experienced backline. But what really makes me very, very intrigued about Diogo Costa is his profile. He, by all accounts, is a very, very good shot stopper. He seems to be more confident in dominating his box. He's very confident with flaming crosses, and most importantly, he's very, very good with his feet. I've heard a lot of people describe him as being on par with Edison level of distribution with his feet, and with the way we play, that is exactly what we need. Somebody who is very confident that they are going to be able to get the ball to the opposing player. Someone who is very confident they're going to be able to get the ball to our teammates higher up the pitch in good positions. That is exactly the kind of thing we need, and I think Diogo Costa could give us that so much. Next up on my list, I have AC Milan goalkeeper Mike Maignan. Mike Maignan for me will be an absolute stellar appointment in between the sticks. 28 years old, experienced, 6'3", brilliant shot stopper, good with his feet, and will absolutely hammer anybody in his way, whether that's an opposing player or his own defender. He is just a little bit nuts that way, and maybe that's the kind of thing we need in our goal, and I think that would be a massive benefit to us. However, I do not believe that we would reasonably be able to get him out of AC Milan. So for that, he is going in the unrealistic category. Mike Maignan, a couple of years ago, was my dream appointment as Chelsea #1, and I would still be very, very happy if that did come to pass. I just don't think it's very likely. He seems very happy playing for AC Milan. I think he's just signed a new contract as well, which will keep him there for quite a bit longer. So he seems happy, he seems settled, and I don't think we'd be reasonably able to take him out of Milan. So for me, that seems unlikely. Someone that were linked with a little bit earlier in the window, a little bit just into January, I believe, was Dortmund keeper Gregor Kobel. And Gregor Kobel would be an absolute stellar appointment for Chelsea. He goes into the ideal category alongside Diogo Costa. He is absolutely brilliant from what I've seen. I mean, a couple of years ago when we played Borussia Dortmund at the Dortmund Stadium, Signal Iduna Park, he was their man of the match. He saved them so much in that game. He is the reason they won that game. About 27 years old, 6'5", very, like, a big bloke as well. He's very good with his feet. He's a solid shot stopper. He's very, very good coming out of his box as well. From what I've seen, he's very good at 1v1s. That could be very good for us in certain instances. So I do like what he brings to the table there. I do have concerns about how easily it would be able to get him out of Dortmund, because I don't particularly know whether or not he'd be willing to go. For one thing, he'd still seem quite settled playing for Dortmund, but also how much they would charge for him. Dortmund are obviously quite notorious for being quite heavy-handed with their transfers. Obviously, the big prices they put up for some of their players, obviously like Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland, and I feel like they try and charge a decent bit for Kobel. Nothing mad because he is a goalkeeper, but it'd probably be a decent fee. There is that, but I think it'd be more possible than someone like a Magnon, so I put him in the ideal category. I think he would be an absolute brilliant appointment in the goal. I do have one concern. Kobel could be one of the names in line to replace Manuel Neuer as Bayern #1. Now, Manuel Neuer has recently just signed a contract extension which keeps him there for, I believe, another year, up until 2026, I want to say. Maybe it's 2, but I think it is just another year. That does lead me to believe, well, he's nearly 40, so that leads me to believe his career is winding down. Bayern will need to be looking for a new #1, and they have a history of shopping at Borussia Dortmund, so it would not surprise me if Gregor Kobel has basically had a conversation with someone at Bayern and said, basically, sit tight for another year, and we will sign you when Neuer leaves. That is a possibility, but I think we could jump on the grenade much, much quicker than that and get him for a decent fee. Now, I've talked a lot about wanting a world-class goalkeeper. Well, very few keepers are more world-class than Thibaut Courtois. Now, Thibaut Courtois is not on this list, but what about his backup keeper, Andre Lunin? Andre Lunin, for most part of the last season, was Real Madrid #1. At the start of the season, it was Kepa after we loaned him there, but he got injured and then fell out of favour, and Thibaut Courtois was injured with an ACL injury for quite a while. So Lunin was 9 times out of 10 the man in between the posts. And I thought he did really, really well for them last season. I thought he did make some brilliant saves, and I think graduating from being that third choice keeper to effectively being #1 due to the injuries to Courtois, he did look really, really good. We did look at him earlier in the summer. However, this is going to be a stay away from me. Couple things. First of all, it's very hard to persuade anybody to leave Madrid, especially someone so young. With the opportunities that he can possibly get to win trophies there, and possibly the prospect of replacing Thibaut Courtois once he does start winding down his career, because Lunin is quite a young keeper, I think that would be too good for him to pass up. So I don't particularly believe he'd be wanting to leave. I also just don't think he's the profile of keeper that we need. I don't think he's necessarily as good with his feet. And there is obviously the case of, would he be able to survive behind a backline that isn't necessarily as good as Real Madrid's is? Obviously with the likes of Militao, David Alaba, Antonio Rudiger there. So would he be able to survive that much? I love our backline, but it ain't that good compared to Madrid's at least. So would he be able to do that well with that in front of him? I don't know. So if we look around the Premier League, there aren't that many options for solid #1s who are the kind of goalkeeper we're looking for. One of them, who I am a big fan of, is Bart Verbruggen. Bart Verbruggen is the Brighton #1 as well as the Dutch #1 as well, and I thought he's done quite well in the year he's been at Brighton. I am, however, going to put him in the risky category, and while I do think he is a solid shot stopper and he is quite good with his feet, I do believe, because of our recent history with Brighton, it would be a pain in the arse to get him out of there. Brighton are notoriously ridiculously hard negotiators. We know that firsthand from dealing with signing Cucurella and Moises Caicedo, Robert Sanchez, etc. So that has caused us no end of grief. So stealing their #1 may not be the most preferred option, because they will try and charge us an arm and a leg for it. So I don't particularly want to have to deal with that. And there is obviously the case of, if they do charge us that much and we did pay it, would it be value for money, basically? And I'm not convinced it would be. Verbruggen doesn't really get mentioned among like top clubs who are looking for a goalkeeper. I do think that is for a reason, which is that I do think he does have a ceiling. I just don't particularly believe that ceiling is a top 6 club. Speaking of top 6 clubs, let's talk about Liverpool. And no, I am not suggesting that we go out and sign Alisson Becker. Someone that we have been linked with, and a lot of people have said that we should be looking to sign, is their backup keeper, Kameen Kelleher. Now, Kelleher has obviously had quite a decent spell in front of goal this season. Obviously, with the injury to Alisson, he was their number one for quite a big portion of the season, and he has done really, really well in that role, and I think it has been solid from him. He's probably been quite unfortunate because he has played really, really well, but he isn't Alisson, so he's never going to be able to sustain a long run in the goal. So I think that is unfortunate for him. But he has proven himself to be a capable keeper. He seems good with his feet. He's a decent shot stopper. He's not the oldest as well. He's about 23 years old, I want to say. And he is going to leave Liverpool. He has said exclusively he wants to leave Liverpool to become a new number one somewhere else. Could that be at Chelsea? For me, though, it's a no. Because of one simple reason. Which is that we need a world-class keeper on the level of someone like Alisson. Maybe not as good as Alisson, but someone who is on his kind of level. If Kelleher was on his level, A, he would have been given many more opportunities in front of goal for Liverpool. That's one thing. And second, he would have left years ago. If he was that good, he would already be gone. And I do not want to find out the hard way the reason he is still there and nobody has tried to take him. I think it would just be a really risky transfer, so for me, it is stay away. I wouldn't go near him. I don't think it'd be the most expensive thing in the world to do. I will say that. The fee quoted has been around 35 million, which is relatively expensive for a goalkeeper, to be fair. It's not something I think we should be looking at. We move on to the current European champion number one goalkeeper, and that is Unai Simon. Unai Simon, basically, is, I want to say, about 27 years old. He was obviously the number one for Spain in the Euros when they did go on to win the entire tournament and not lose a single game in the process, I'm pretty sure. He did really, really well in that time. He never really had that much to do because that defense largely sorted itself out on its own. I do have massive, massive PTSD with this one because I do not particularly want to go through the process of signing another Spanish keeper from Atletico Bilbao for likely a very big price. Don't particularly want to do that again. Done that once. Don't want to do it again. And I genuinely think that is the reason nobody has gone for Unai Simon before now. I think that could put him in the risky category. However, just because he does have the credentials for it, he is obviously a European champion with Spain, and by all accounts is a good keeper. I'm going to put him in the solid category. It very well could be risky. And probably should be risky, especially considering the reasons I have listed, that it'd probably be a big fee and we don't want to repeat the mistake with Kepa. I think his credentials are good enough, and he has been in the game a lot longer than Kepa had been by that point. Kepa was only about 23 years old, Unai Simon's about 27, so he is a bit more experienced. He does have a couple injury problems which are a bit concerning, but for me, I can look past those a little bit because goalkeepers don't tend to get injured that much. It wouldn't be the worst option in the world to look at Unai Simon. Now we move into a goalkeeper that most people should know by now. It is the Italy number one, Gianluigi Donnarumma. And for me, Donnarumma is a very, very good goalkeeper. One of the best in the world. In my opinion, up there, probably in the top 5 best goalkeepers in the world. He is an unbelievably good shot stopper. Very good at cross-claiming. He's obviously 6'6". He's a very big goalkeeper. And I think he has done really, really well for both Italy and for PSG in the time he has been there. Would be a really good addition. There are two problems, however. One, I don't particularly believe he's as good with his feet as we necessarily need him to be, and I think that could cause us problems. We're already dealing with that right now, so that might not necessarily be the best choice. And the other problem, and this is a more significant one, I don't believe we're going to be able to get him. Getting someone out of PSG is hard on a good day, and losing their number one is not particularly something they're going to be fond of doing, so I don't believe it's possible. But sticking with the French League for our final option of the video, and we're talking about Lille number one, Lucas Chevalier. I'll be honest, I don't know much about this guy. I only really learned about him in like a past couple months, and I haven't seen that much of him either. So really, I don't have that much of a big sample size to judge on. He is only young. He's about 23, 24 years old, I want to say. By all accounts, he does look like a good keeper, but obviously playing for Lille and translating that to the Premier League can be done. Eden Hazard did it and did it well, but as a goalkeeper, I don't necessarily know whether that'll happen as much. So it is possible, but for me, I am going to put it in the risky category. to overview that, my top 2 choices for a goalkeeping position are Diogo Costa and Gregor Kobel. For me, out of those two, if you give me the choice of which one I would prefer, it would be Diogo Costa. I think he is everything that we need out of a goalkeeper. Good shot stopper, good with cross-claiming, ridiculously good with his feet, and for me, he should be the target that we should be looking at. 100%. I think he would be an absolutely fantastic addition to our squad, and really, I think it is 100% the one we should be targeting. So, that is it for this episode of Transfer Tiers. I hope you all very much enjoyed. Please leave your thoughts on who you believe we should sign in between the sticks down below. I would very much appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure you're sick of hearing my voice. So, with that being said, I'm going to sign off here by saying my name is the Crimson Wolf. I'm the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet, and you have all been amazing. And I will see you in the next one. Good luck with it.